Well, you've done one thing right today already. You woke up in the city of opportunity. I heard it said yesterday best that Houston is not a destination city, it's a city of opportunity. We have droves of people moving to the Houston area. Some of you may remember the mass exodus in the late 80s. Well, they're all coming back in big numbers. So I have good news for you this morning with regard to the commercial office market, but I also have a warning. I want to plea to you to be gracious winners in this season, as best said by one of my favorite mentors who's here today. He will remain nameless, and just in case I mess up the program. Okay, but I will encourage you to take all the information that we're going to share with you, study it online after the program. We're not going to go in detail today. We're going to give you high-level information, and use it when you're out in the community to tell the real story of what's really going on in Houston, Texas. These are not false figures. This is not me being an optimist. The glass is not half full because that's how I was born. The truth doesn't lie. Houston is one of the strongest cities in the nation, and it will continue to be. It is the city of opportunity. So as people come into our city, welcome them, because many of you were new Houstonians at one time yourselves, right? So welcome them to our city. They're going to be the future of our city. So embrace them. Let them learn about our culture by the way that you welcome them. But as they make their way to the Houston gold rush, I hope they bring a shovel, because we got a lot of hard work to do. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so if you look at what happened in the third quarter in Houston in the office market, vacancy is down, but modestly. You're going to see a big drop next year, but it is headed down. Absorption was up. What's interesting about absorption in Houston in the third quarter is that we were one of only 3 cities in the U.S. that absorbed over 1 million square feet. The first was Manhattan. That's no surprise to anyone. And the other was Dallas. So 2 Texas cities. Lease rates have stabilized. Last year I said they will stabilize. They have stabilized. And in Class A high demand assets, they're already rising. But this is an A-B overview, so they have stabilized. If you're a big space user, your supply is limited. So you know what that means. These new developers are going to get their rates, okay? New construction is down from last year. We're only building about 1.4 million square feet of Class A office space right now, but there's more to come. This number is going to spike next year. Most of it is pretty well pre-leased. Job growth is up. The figure that you see there of 286,000 jobs, that's for all of Texas, going back 12 months. Now, what I think is interesting about this statistic is that if you looked at that stat in the first quarter of this year, it was only 51,000. So we've had tremendous growth this year, and you're going to see that continue. Now, you really have to do some digging. And yesterday, the Greater Houston Partnership finally announced their job growth numbers at noon. I don't know if anyone's seen that report yet, but I'll hit some highlights for you, and you can get it at houston.org. But about 80,000 of the jobs landed in Houston this year. And next year, the projection is 84,000 jobs. So we'll get to the punchline real fast for the office guys in the room. If you look, if a new job means 25 square feet of absorption, based on the factor that's happening right now in this season with the type of growth and the types of industries where we're seeing it, then we can expect over 2 million square feet of positive absorption next year. Okay, so this graph shows the recessions of the decade. So take a look at the red line. That represents the 2-year post-end of recession activity in our economy. And what you can see is that this is a long and deep recession. This is for the U.S., and Houston is well ahead of the U.S. Now, we've seen recovery in major economic areas. I'm most impressed with the increase in productivity. I think America has learned how to do more with less. And if we could remember anything to teach the next generation, It's to teach them to continue this path of prudency and efficiency, because that feeds right into that spike in corporate profits that you see there. But the thing that concerns me is that this is the productivity chart, and you can see that there was a spike in '09. We were forced to do more with less, right? Anybody get a higher workload on them after the recession, but happy to have that job? This is the result, higher productivity. If we could actually maintain that, it would be a culture changer for our nation. And at some point, people might actually learn that less is more. Okay, corporate profits are up above pre-recession levels, but consumer confidence is down. This is so interesting to me. And remember, this is across the U.S. The business investment is gaining strength, but retail sales and retail sales reached a historic high, okay? But consumer confidence is at a 40-year low. Why is this? Some of the possible factors are the European debt crisis, Occupy Wall Street, and the press. So I want to speak to the press issue for half a second here. I encourage you, if you don't have great mentors in your life, to find a few that are much wiser than you, because they are good at reminding you of how many recessions have actually occurred in their lifetimes. I was reminded that there have been 7 recessions since 1967. So this is old news, guys. You can't have peaks without valleys. But we exacerbate the media. When it happens to you, then it becomes a big deal. It's like having a child. New life occurs every day until it happens to you, then the world stops. You lose your job, you're going to watch the news, and you're going to feel that pain, and you want to commiserate. But we have got to think outside of that mentality, because that is not the truth, especially in Houston. There's much, much opportunity, and the people I respect most in this room are those who have reinvented themselves time and time again, and that's the culture of Houston. So this graph, you can go back and study all this stuff later, but what this says is that for every 1 job opening, there are 4 unemployed people in the U.S. Not the case in Houston, but across the U.S. I think one of our biggest problems in this nation is that we do not have a skilled labor force, and we need to work hard on improving that, especially here in Houston. I've got 2 clients that would take on more commercial office space today if they could hire the skilled labor that they need. And they're in energy and in IT. They need engineers. Okay, this is fascinating. The duration of unemployment today is 39-something weeks. That is almost equivalent to the average duration of unemployment in 1948. So I believe that this has a lot to do with consumer confidence, because most of us in the room know someone who just lost their job or lost their job in the last 5 years. And it may not change your spending habits, but it should change the way you brag about it. So I think that overall is giving us a higher sensitivity to the haves, the have-nots, and to be more appreciative of your job. The length of the recession in Houston was very short. As a result, we only lost less than 5% of our job base. That totaled 121,000 jobs. The great news, and this is an old slide as of noon yesterday, this slide shows that Houston at the top has recovered 92% of the jobs that were lost during the recession, when in fact, we have already recovered all of them. And we were the fastest metro area to do that. So great news for our city. In which sectors did this occur? This is an old slide here too. I love that their report came out yesterday. It's lovely. So we now have 6 industries in which we had a full recovery of jobs. You can look at this chart and unanimously tell me which one is the 6th. It's oil and gas. Okay, so rig count is up. Now, the crude oil prices, let's take a look at what's happened. There's a separation. We've all heard about this. There's a separation between the West Texas Intermediate and the Brent. It has a lot to do with the supply of the U.S. shale plays. That's having a big impact on our market. The people that, my clients, my friends in that industry, I keep asking, can you tie job growth to Houston back to a shale play in North Dakota? They said, absolutely. I said, okay, how? They said, we can't really measure it yet. We just know it's tremendous growth. So we'll be able to measure it next year. That'll be fun to watch. Now, this is a color-coded graph of unemployment in the U.S., you want to be in the light-colored states, okay? Well, as I was looking at this, I was trying to think, what's causing these northern states to be have such low employment? Start thinking about population, start thinking about what's going on in their regions, and so on. And then we decided to overlay the shale plays. Now, I can tell you this is the one I'm going to watch this time next year. I think it's going to continue to marry up with where those shale plays are. Oh, by the way, don't go fracking off of that map because we did that in-house. Okay, guys? All right. So here's where a little bit of humility sets in. Yes, you can brag that we have vacancy that is below the national average, but guys, it is only 10 basis points, okay? We are headed the right direction. We are going to have tremendous absorption next year. Our vacancy is going to fall. It's going to be good, but I can tell you that we are just marginally under that national average. Now, I don't care where the national average is. I don't like 16% vacancy. That's really nothing to brag about. We need to get back in the low teens. So this is a breakdown quarterly of absorption. You can see that Q3 was strong. I think Q4 is going to be even stronger. I like to look at the historical absorption and vacancy. Vacancy is the blue line, and the bars are absorption. The thing I like about this chart is if you look in these recent years, you see steady, respectable growth in absorption. Not a fickle trend, steady, respectable growth that's sustainable. And that's what's going to carry us into really strong numbers next year. Now, I think a landlord rep put this graph together because if you see the spike in rent in the bar to the far right, it's a 250% increase. It represents 25 cents a foot. Okay, so all the landlord guys don't get too excited out there. Rents will increase modestly, appropriately, especially when those tenants are well represented. Okay. We have 1.4 million square feet under construction in the West Loop, the Energy Corridor, and the Woodlands. Healthy pre-leasing activity. You're familiar with many of these buildings. We're going to see a lot more on this slide next year. So I will be respectful of my partners up here and pass it on. But you are in the best city in the nation. So thanks for waking up in the right place.